Welcome everyone on our first conference, the project Voice of Polish Jewry in Europe. That is a public task financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland within the grant competition Public Diplomacy 2021. I would like to welcome our distinguished guests. First, Alex Benjamin, the director of the European Jewish Association, is connected to us straight from Brussels. Welcome Monika Krawczyk, director of the Jewish Historical Institute from Warsaw. And Edward Odoner, member of the Social Cultural Association of Jews in Poland, TSKŻ. Some of the people might recognize this organization with this name. He's very much engaged in the work of our public affairs department of our organization. So today I would like to talk with you about the voice of the Polish Jewry. The meeting is open, it's going to be held in English. I see that more and more people are connected to our meeting. That's why I would like everyone who just connected with us to be, as for now, muted, and there will be an option, muted and yes, and there will be an option to later to ask the questions. So first of all, I would like to ask all of my guests to say exactly about the voice of the Polish Jewry in Europe. Is it actually heard? Maybe Alex, does the voice of the Polish Jewry, is it heard in Europe, in Brussels, for example?
Oh, for sure it's heard in Brussels, very much so, because people are really looking, I mean, Poland is very much under the microscope at the moment anyway, from a European perspective, because of its government and some of the things that it's been doing, which have been perceived to be against European values. So people are looking very intently at how Poland treats minorities. Of course, you've got the Jewish minority, and then you've got the various LGBTQI groups and women's rights, etc. So how Poland treats its minorities is very important, and from a Jewish perspective, Polish Jewry is very at the forefront for us as a director of the European Jewish Association. Polish Jews have always been seen and as a kind of royal family, if you like, of European Jewry, in the sense that it was a place where, prior to the war, of course I speak, there were a huge number of Jews, 10% of the population at the time, just before the war, a center of Jewish learning, some of the eminent rabbis, some of the main centers of learning were there. Places like Krakow and Warsaw with substantial Jewish communities. So we really want to see Polish Jewry, and we want to see Polish Jewish voice really reasserting itself, because once it reasserts itself, it gives strength to the rest of Europe. And there's a sense here in Brussels and amongst other European Jewish communities that if a Polish Jewish community succeeds, we all succeed. So there's a sense of anticipation and a sense of hope, also a sense of concern, because we really want to see this kind of Polish Jewish renaissance. So yeah, that's my perspective from Brussels.
Mm-hmm. Monika?
Well, the Jewish minority in Poland is less than 1%, so it's extremely difficult to be heard even in Poland. So that's the first thing. And then to reach out to the European community, whether we are talking about Jewish community in Europe or or generally the Europeans in our continent, it's the more hard. So I would like to express gratitude to the Cultural Association, TSKŻ, for taking up this special initiative, connecting with European Jewish Association And opening this channel of information, I view it as very important task to be followed. It will not be easy because we know about criticism coming from many directions, but main issue here is that well, we are open to discuss it, and if we can voice our concerns or share different view on common perspectives, it's great. Thank you.
Edward, what do you think about the voice of Polish Jewry in Europe? And as Monika said, and of course the whole project, our project that we are taking part right now in, it's about the communication of the Polish Jewry with Europe. It's some kind of, as you said, channel of diplomacy, or the channel between just community and community. Edward, are we doing enough to communicate our voice? Please unmute yourself. Edward, unmute yourself. No, we don't hear you.
Okay, unmute.
Yes.
This is the subject that we've been discussing among ourselves since I don't remember when. It's been so long ago, because it seems like although we're talking about the Jewish heritage that we have here in Poland, and the number of Jews that were living here in Poland long time ago, but then when it comes to the fate of what's going on with Poland, with the Jews and their property and so on, the Polish Jews were the last ones to, or if ever, asked about their opinion, what they think about the legislation regarding the Jewish property, mainly, since it seems like American Jews have more to say about it than the Polish Jews, just because our numbers here are dwindling steadily, and American Jewish communities are quite large compared to us. It seems like their voice, although they very seldom have nothing to do with the Polish Jews anymore, it's more important around the world than the voice of the Polish Jews living here in Poland, actually. So I think it's about time that the voice of the Polish Jews will be heard around the world regarding matters that concern us, that directly touch us, and what's going on here in Poland, and this is a very good step in this direction. What Klaudia has organized here, and I hope it will bring that voice of Polish Jews will be heard more and more in the world regarding what's going on with the Polish Jewish history and the property laws, especially when it comes to that around the world. And
I guess,
hopefully,
yeah, I guess
hopefully we'll start a good discussions about that.
Yeah, I guess we'll like come back to the topic of the property. I guess there are also other topics that are all the time, or from a year to year, they are discussed in Europe. But also I would like to follow the question about this voice. So who should be this voice? Monika, Edward, should there be one person, one voice, one organization that would speak on behalf of every Jews in Poland, or actually there should be as many voices as the organizations? Because as we know, Jews has a whole palette of how they perceive themselves, of how they define themselves as a Jews. So who should be this voice? Is it good that it's only one, or is it better to have more of them?
Can I?
Yes, yeah, you can.
There is a little joke among Jews, and not only Jews, that when there are two Jews abandoned on an island, they built 3 synagogues.
Yeah.
We all know that joke, right?
Yes.
And this is what happened everywhere with Jews. So we have, basically in Poland, we have 2 major organizations right now. We have the Social Cultural Association of Jews in Poland, known by its acronym TSKŻ, and then we have a religious community of Poland that most likely the members of one organizations are also members of the other organizations. So these two organizations, if they work together, that would be, in my opinion, a very good voice of the Polish Jewry, because that would represent just about maybe 75% of 80% of the all Jews that are living here presently in Poland. So this shouldn't be a one person or one organization. I think these two organizations should be validated as the voice of the Polish Jewry when it comes to issues concerning what's going on here in Poland regarding the Jewish situation.
Mm-hmm. Monika, do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree on official matters. This is very important to have the representative organizations. On the other hand, I see that in these discussions, especially that we have various opinions and they are important. I think that the voice should be heard of everyone who is involved and is active, and whoever wants to come to the table and talk. So for sure there are many individuals and also some minor organizations and foundations which are valuable voice in the discussions.
Mm-hmm. Alex, so you as a European organization, if you would like to talk with someone about some serious Jewish matter in Europe, do you know to whom you should go and talk to, or you are confused?
Well, regarding Polish Jewry, you mean?
Yeah, regarding the Polish Jewry, or regarding the topics that are European, about the European Jewry, but of course you would like to know, for example, the statement of the Polish Jewry.
Okay, so just to come off the back of what Edward was saying, I mean, I choose my words carefully because Poland is a Catholic country, but Jews are, in a sense, if we were Christian, would probably be Protestant, in the sense that we love to disagree with each other, and as Edward was saying, you know, a couple of Jews, 3 different synagogues, that one I'll never go into. So oftentimes I make the joke. I don't know how many of our viewers today are going to be familiar with Monty Python's Life of Brian. But there's this wonderful scene of the People's Front of Judea and a Judean People's Front, where we'll never get involved. So look, Jews are very, very opinionated. There are obviously concerns. There's no uniform approach. So I think it would obviously make sense if there was somebody, a figurehead representing Polish Jewry, to deal with the government. But then if we look at other countries where that happens, in places like France to an extent, or Belgium, where there is a government appointee, it means that, you know, if there are any disagreements amongst the Jewish community, the one who isn't tasked with relating their concerns to the government is excluded from that conversation. So it's a fine balance. And I think I agree with Monika that we need a plurality of voices, and we need to represent the entire plethora of Jewish opinion. So each Jew's voice is as important as the other. And if we start creating hierarchies, and not only do I believe that could lead to some kind of maybe disagreements or tensions within the Jewish community themselves, but it also means that the governments that we're speaking to, they feel that they can just speak to one person and that's it. They've encapsulated the entirety of Jewish opinion. Of course, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. So from my perspective, the more, as much as anything, given as Monika and Edward were saying, there's a small community, 1% of the population, it's important that there are a plurality of voices, because if people just see one person speaking the whole time, they think the community is even smaller. You know, so we need to have a broad range of opinion. That's my take.
Yeah, Monika, Edward, any comments or?
Yes, of course there is, if I can make a comment on what Monika says, I do agree to some extent to what she says and the sentiments that are shared by Alex, but we must remember that right now in Poland, there are so many organizations that they claim to be Jewish organizations when they have basically, sometimes I'm not sure that they even have one or two Jews as a members of. So it's hard to hear their voice, because this would be almost like an individual voice. So if we do allow all these organizations that have a really minuscule Jewish content in their membership, it would serve no purpose for me, in my opinion, that these organizations should be part of the Jewish voice. They can, many times these people also belong to these two largest organizations, as I was saying, to the TSKŻ and to the religious community, and therefore their voice is heard through the representative of their organization. And if there are organizations, we can even say, let's say that they have more than 100 members that are Jewish, because some of these organizations don't have even 10 members that are Jewish. So if they're not all male, then minyan would be impossible with them. And so we should take that into account, that we cannot talk with every organization that claim to be Jewish, because that way we might as well ask every Jew in Poland, because there are, by the latest estimate, there could be maybe like less than 10,000 Jews in Poland. So 10,000 Jews, it's not really that many. We can ask every one of them about their opinion, and that's it. But obviously this is not going to work that way, because we're going to have 10,000 different opinions. So I think that, like, these two major organizations that I mentioned, plus what Monika says, that some of the organizations that have some substantial number of members could be also added to the voice of the unified Jewish voice from Poland. But I think that should be on some subjects we do differ, but then there are some subjects that we do have exactly the same opinion and the same sentiment. So we can agree on that as a whole Jewish community. And then we have a representative that we can choose that could be alternatively once somebody from one organization, another year someone from another organization, to represent the view of the Polish Jews.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so we talk about the voice. Let's talk about the partnership and organizations in real action. Alex, what value actually the cooperation with TSKŻ gives to EJCC or EJA?
Okay, so let me say, when we signed the memorandum of understanding going back a couple of years with the TSKŻ, I can tell you that it was one of my proudest moments, because for the many reasons I outlined earlier on. Polish Jewry, its history, its illustrious history, its center, its renaissance. Having a partner in such a large European country, even though, as Edward said, maybe it's only 10,000 Jews, it's still 10,000 very, very important Jews. It's 10,000 Jews that other European countries look to. Other European countries feel a lot of connection to, because don't forget, there was a huge migration, not only to America, and Edward was saying it a few minutes ago, there's a lot of people in other countries who feel they have an opinion on Polish Jewry. Well, there's a reason for that, in a sense that a lot of them came from Poland, or what was Galicia, or from these areas, and then spread out for one reason or another, either the advent of war or pogroms, or what happened in 1968, where they were, I'm putting it politely, encouraged to leave. So from our perspective, why is it important? Well, it's important because Polish Jewry is important. It's important because Poland is also the center, and I hate to hark back to the past all the time, but it's also where a number of the death camps are located and situated. It's also where a lot of the eminent rabbis were from. And it's also a place where European Jews are watching, and I'm going to say something, I don't mean this, my wife is Czech, and whenever I go to the community in Prague, I feel, I'm choosing my words carefully, I almost feel that I'm looking at what I call museum Jews. These are Jews that are, you know, they're almost like a tourist attraction. And it's something, and that makes me sad. Whenever I go into the El Tanoi synagogue, whether it's to daven or just to spend a few quiet moments, and I see tourists coming in and out with a plastic kippot or the paper ones, I think it would be a great shame. And I guess from our perspective, at the European Jewish Association, would be concerned if Polish Jewry went down the same route, because of course there are monetary pressures. We've got to keep our buildings going. We have to, but it's important for us that schools, at schools, that Jewish life, whether that's access to kosher meat, whether it's kosher restaurants, all of these things underpin Jewish life. And so from our perspective, we'd love to be able to help TSKZ develop that and embed Jewish life and with our voice at the European institutions. So it's a two-way thing. I'd like to think that yes, TSKZ get the benefit of the European voice here in Brussels, but equally we're nothing as an EGA without the Polish Jewish voice, without the Spanish Jewish voice or whatever. It's just a means of cooperating and articulating that voice and avoiding, again, not being disingenuous, but avoiding the situation where Jews become just a sort of artifact from history and something to go and see in a museum. We're living, breathing communities, and it's absolutely imperative that we continue to live and grow so that our children have something that, or grandchildren have something to be interested in and take pride in.
I remember when I was a little bit younger than I am now. I think it was like 14 years ago. I remember I went to United States for some kind of a Jewish conference. I was promoting my project at that time and the beginning of my foundation that I established. And I remember I had a speech and I told to the audience, which was mostly American Jews, I told them, you are giving us a lot of tools to develop and to develop since many years. You are also financing us. I mean, you gave us the structure, the infrastructure for the Jewish community, but still I feel, and that's what I said to them, still I feel that you don't treat the Polish Jewry as an equal partner in like international projects. Like you still treat us a little bit like a small kid that needs to be pushed a little bit, needs to be helped, but you don't treat us equally. So Monika, do you think that now, after, let's say 13 years since I said those words, something changed?
I think that would be over-optimistic to expect equal treatment from the greatest community in the world, if we are talking about American Jewry.
Are we equal in Europe at least? Not the European Jewry, to the American Jewry?
Well, size matters, and of course the contribution to the general culture also matters, to the Jewish culture. The question would be, do we have outstanding actors, Jewish intellectuals, Jewish artists, who can be leaders in the European community that could actually look a little bit up here. I think that the picture is rather gloomy, and especially if we look into the, let's say, religious aspect of Jewish life, there is also not much of the interest. So if we, for example, want to follow some of the educational activities within the Jewish sphere, especially in Judaism. I mean, most of my friends who are interested connect to online programs which are shared by the communities in Great Britain or United States or Israel. Not so much to the German communities or French communities, we don't have this contact, which could be interesting subject to maybe try to actually tighten the links and the communities, Jewish communities or Jewish organizations in those educational level where we can all meet and create some common platform. And then hopefully after the Corona crisis, we will be able maybe to meet somewhere and also share experiences and connections.
Yeah, I think that more and more international projects are needed, not only to learn, but also to show that we can also be innovative and creative, and we can give a lot from us. The last question, but not least, I mean, not the least important, because I think it's quite important question. Should Polish Jews' voice should be more heard in discussion like ban for circumcision or ban for ritual slaughtering? Or also, and here it's a topic from the last week, growing dispute over Poland's changes to property restitution rules that will prevent Jewish claims for compensation of property seized during Holocaust and communist times. We have a little bit Polish-Israeli diplomatic crisis currently. Some organizations gave a comment to that, some of them not. My question is first to Alex. So should the Polish jury give their statement toward that kind of discussions in Europe, basically? And then the question to Edward and Monika, how do you do that in your organizations? Do you comment that kind of discussions?
It's a tough one, Claudia, because, you know, before we came on, Edward was speaking briefly about the restitution thing in particular, and how a lot of people talk about it outside, but never actually consult or never really seek to reach out to Polish Jews to find out how they really feel about it, which is concerning, which is why, from our perspective at EGA, and hopefully Edward can back me up on this, when it came to the ban on kosher slaughter or the ban on exports, the first thing we did was get on the phone to TSKŻ and ask their opinion, because we can't just speak. I mean, of course we have an opinion on it, but you know, we're supposed to be articulating the views of our communities. So in a sense, and I get why Israel as well, you know, gets involved, but kind of deals with the point that you were saying earlier on, Claudia. If you don't want to be seen as a little kid and you don't want to have your head patted, then it's important to find that voice. But of course, it's a challenge because it's not just confined to Poland. Let me give you a classic example. Here in Belgium, they're taking away the security from outside Jewish buildings and synagogues on the 1st of September. The Jewish community here wasn't even consulted. Nobody spoke from government about it. So, and as a result, as soon as we heard, then we had to go and make a lot of noise and kick up stink about it. So it's important that Poland and Polish jury, taking on board what Edward and Monika was saying earlier on, I understand the need to have a kind of, we can't hear from 10,000 different voices because otherwise there's a cacophony. But really, Poland, the Polish government and Polish authorities need to understand that they do need to consult. They can't just make these decisions, but it can't just be feeding meat to the mob by just doing what they want to do, because there are obviously clear repercussions. So we often find that there's this duality when it comes to government relations with Jews. On the one hand, they're very supportive of anti-Semitism, very supportive of initiatives that seek to stop anti-Semitism. but they don't seem to have any problems with legislation, which for all intents and purposes amounts to the same thing. If an anti-Semite wants to see Jews out of a country and a government is against that, then how can a government support a ban on ritual slaughter or a ban on circumcision, which effectively ends Jewish life anyway, because Jews would have to go somewhere else to circumcise their children, or they'll just simply up and move to a community where they can have regular access to food that they need, or they don't feel persecuted or victimized. So I wish I had a short soundbite of an answer, Claudia, but it's something. Well, first of all, both Edward and Monika are in a much better position to speak about the importance of a Polish voice. But I can tell you from a European perspective, we need a strong Polish voice, and we need the Polish government to understand that to find this balance, that it's not just 10,000 people, that there are hundreds of thousands of Jews, including a government which has its support. The key is finding the balance between allowing the Jewish voice in Poland to express itself fully, whilst having the support. We need to make sure that the support isn't overwhelming, that the support gives Polish Jewry a chance to express itself and a chance to speak, and we don't try and speak on behalf of Polish Jewry, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Edward and then Monika.
Well, when it comes to the ban on kosher slaughter and circumcisions, no one has asked any of the Jewish organization, as far as I know, their opinion on the subject. Therefore, this is arbitrary action of the Polish government officials who decided that they're going to ban the kosher slaughter and circumcision. I don't think that under the Polish law and Polish constitutions they can ban the circumcisions, because that would mean that they infringe on a religious freedom, and therefore it could be challenged in any court and the Polish government would lose. So this is sort of academic discussion, because I'm pretty sure that they do realize that banning circumcisions that would effectively be against the constitutions, which guarantees the freedom of religion. Now, when it comes to ban on kosher slaughter, nobody ever asked any of the Jewish organizations what they think about banning kosher slaughter. Of course, the government has an excuse, because there is a provision there that the kosher slaughter is allowed for the local members of the Jewish community. So actually, what it means, the way I see it, is that the kosher slaughter is going to be more hurtful to the big exporters of kosher meat, especially to Israel and Arab countries, because they also have similar problems. And as far as why the government does it, I don't know, because it kills really big export of Polish poultry into the Israel and Arab countries, which goes into millions and millions of dollars every year. And they do have an excuse, as I said before, that they do allow the kosher slaughter for the local Jewish community, because they know very well that if they ban that altogether, that again, it would be against the law that is against the Polish constitutions, which would be effectively, if the law went into effect, effectively would eliminate the provision of the constitutions that allows freedom of religion. So they are very careful with that. And why they want to do it, I have no idea. I don't know why they do it, because it makes no sense from many points of view, from the business point of view, from the way they are seen around the world. So this is a PR disaster, and it baffles me to this day why would they have such a project? Because obviously the reasons are known to them, but to me they are unexplainable. And then they are very careful to make sure that the ban on kosher slaughter has this provision that the Jews in Poland can do it anyhow for their own need. So the whole issue baffles me altogether. I'm sorry to say that, but I don't see any sense in that sort of laws being passed by the Polish lawmakers.
Monika?
Yeah, when it comes to the subject of ban on circumcision, it was rather seen in the legislatives of Western European countries like Belgium and to a certain extent probably Germany, and maybe some other countries were also involved. And in this case, we definitely should support and work together with the European Jewish Association and other European Jewish organizations. And I think that, Alex, you wanted to say something maybe at this point?
Yes, Alex raised his hand.
Sorry to jump in on this. It's just it's very, very important, Monica, and I hope I didn't cut you off mid-flow and coming off the back of what Edward was saying as well. This is why it's so important, whether it is the ban on exports, or whether it's circumcision, or whether it, to an extent, it's restitution. We find as the European Jewish Association that hopefully everyone is familiar with the game whack-a-mole. This is the idea of when you were a kid, you had a hammer, and these things would come up, you had to bash them, and there were different holes, and you had to keep hitting wherever the thing came up. This is how it is when we're talking about circumcision, when we're talking about ritual slaughter, and not so much on restitution, but certainly other European countries are always watching to see what other countries are doing. And if there's a green light in Poland for circumcision, a ban on circumcision, that means there'll be a green light in Belgium, there'll be a green light in Denmark, there'll be a green light. And you tend to find that a lot of these, and sometimes they're progressive voices. These are so-called liberals who want, they preach plurality. Sorry, plurality. Thank you. But realistically, as long as you do slaughter animals in what they deem as the correct way, or ideally not at all, or you don't, as they see it, mutilate children, which is obviously a huge insult to any Jewish parent. Anyway, the point I'm making is that it's vital that we all stand together, because as I said, at the beginning, if Poland succeeds, we all succeed, and equally, if Spain succeeds, we all succeed. There's this idea, maybe I'm a hopeless romantic, but the idea of a rising tide that lifts all boats. So if we stick together, not just in Poland, but as European Jews as well. So that means if somebody comes and picks on Poland, European Jewish Association and our communities can jump in and fight this legislation together. And it's important that we do, because there are no borders as such. It's just legislation. We really need to fight it. We really need, and occasionally, and here's the thing, I promise I'm going to shut up now about it. But the thing is, Edward, you were saying earlier on, sometimes you scratch your head and you wonder at the decision, and it might not even affect a Polish jury. And some of the things that frustrate me occasionally with Jewish groups is sometimes we need to see beyond our borders. Sometimes we need to see what's happening across the picture as a whole in Europe. And that's why it's important. So sometimes it might be frustrating that Jews from other countries sort of stick their nose in Polish affairs, but it's only because we care, and it's only because we're looking over our shoulder as to what's happening in Belgium or France or Italy or Spain. We need to keep doing that. So anyway, sorry for jumping in there. Just really wanted to make that point.
Yeah, because once they get the foot in the door, why then they keep it more and more open, and pretty soon we're going to find out that there may be Jewish faith will be outlawed in some places.
Yeah,
you never
Monika, let's give back voice to Monika.
Gentlemen, let me continue. So, definitely we should be on those issues united, as we say, call Israel Haverim. And we should be supporting each other in every country, and also working with the European lobbyist Jewish organizations. But when it comes to the kosher slaughter and this problem that it emerges every like one and a half year in Poland, and then what was done here, we were really working hard more on the direct contacts with the parliamentarians and trying to explain them what it really means and how it's perceived and why it's needed by the Jewish community. So fortunately, we managed to reach the decision makers in such a way that it was possible to I'm not sure if really stop, but for sure make a break on that pushing of that legislation. And I can tell you that it was going through the connections here in Poland, but we also worked with you, Alex, with the Rabbi Margolin of the and on those issues. And hopefully it's been, let's say, dealt with for now. We don't hear anything about it. I agree with Edward that the most predominating factor was the role of the export in the meat industry. But coming back to the issue that interests us the most at the moment, and it shows also how important is the voice of the Jewish organizations in Poland vis-a-vis the world when it comes to the things that are discussed in Poland, because we have the issue of restitution now raised, yes, but first of all, this new legislation, which is being discussed, does not concern restitution at all, directly. It does indirectly, and surely the effect of this draft law should be corrected in such a way that it does not act retroactively. So all the pending claims that are pursued at the moment should be able to be continued, and this is fundamental, even Roman law value, that lex retro non agit. There is no possibility that the new law would undo delete the rights of people who acquired them in the past. But mixing in the so-called hairless property issue in this specific legislation, in the reaction to it by some of the Jewish organizations, and which was also picked up by Israeli diplomacy and also to a certain extent by the Americans. I mean, it doesn't really fit into this discussion because it's completely different subject, and which of course could be discussed on the separate basis. But now when you mix two things that are two arguments that need different approach, because nobody really went deeply into or understood the root of the problem and the new legislation, then it causes more confusion rather than trying to address specific problems. I don't want to deal with that issue too long, because I think it's worth explaining it in maybe longer article, which I hope maybe I will be able to write it soon and publish it in English so people could understand.
Well, yes, we will share it for sure. We're going to share it.
And but we also have to have on mind that Poland has sorted out the problem of the Jewish communal properties that, based on the law from 1997, are in process or have been in large proportion past transferred to the Jewish religious communities. And this process has not been challenged in any way and is continued. So that's a positive factor. And also, if we are talking about the restitution situation of the Jewish and non-Jewish properties, so let's say the Polish citizens' properties from before the war, it seems that even though very detailed statistics are not available, that from a rough estimation of State Treasury Ministry that was done a few years ago, majority of those pending claims are coming from, let's say, ethnically Polish citizens from before the war and their successors. And of course, it's not an argument to delete the value of the ownership and the rights that people lost because they were not able to pursue those claims for the long term of communist rule in Poland. Sorry, I have internet problems and then it switches off. But still there is place for discussion and we are hopeful.
Yes, and let's finish on that, on your last sentence. Indeed, you are right that this topic is quite a huge topic, and it's not a shallow topic. It has its history in the regulations, in the Polish regulations since like last 20 years. So indeed, maybe it's a good idea to use this topic for our next discussion and just go deeper into that and to really try to understand it and not to produce more misunderstanding around that. Very good point, Monika. I think that this will be the end of our official meeting. So I would like to say thank you to all of the guests that decided to come together today and discuss about the voice of Polish Jewry. I would like to thank, of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland that financed this task within the grand competition, Public Diplomacy 2021. Now I'm going to finish official part of this meeting, and I know that we have some guests, so soon I will give you the voice.